We're recording. Please don't swear. That's to me, because by the way, I've got a bit of a potty mouth. If you don't like swearing, I may not be the unicorn for you. And look, life is too short to spend time with people who do not light you up. So if I am not your flavour of Marmite, Marmite is a British spread, in case you hadn't heard of it, then I won't be offended. You go do you. And, whoever wants to be here, I hope you're going to play full out with me. So let's get some slides up, shall we? Share screen. Yes. Can you see my screen? Amazing. So we've already done a little bit of work on the words that you associate with imposter syndrome. They've got a sense of what folks are saying in the room around self-doubt, anxiety, fraud, all absolutely right for this topic that we're going to be exploring today. Now, my name is Alice. I have a company called Badass Unicorns and two mini unicorns who you can see on the screen. And I pinch myself that I get to do this for a job, give talks like this for a job, and I have the pleasure of doing so for the types of clients that you see on my screen. So here I am, Chief Sorcerer of this company I've been running now for 5 years with these incredible clients, Haar. And what I would love you to take away from today is that I get an average score of 9 out of 10 in feedback. So hopefully I'm going to smash the doors off with you guys today. Now, what you might not read on everybody's LinkedIn feed are some of the other aspects of me. So as well as running my own company, I'm also the chief stressor. Give me a heart emoji or a yes if you can relate. Despite having lots of luck in my life, I find the demands of everyday life so challenging. Kids and career in the gym and trying to eat healthily and buying this and getting the MOT. And I just feel like it's almost impossible to keep up. I also have generalized anxiety disorder, which I'm medicated for, which has really, really helped. But as well as these pinch me clients, I've had some other tricky situations come my way, like demotion and redundancy. So life didn't always look quite as shiny as it does now. And whilst I get amazing workshop feedback, I am a work in progress myself. I invite you to be your best work in progress, practically imperfect person to the session today, because that's who I'm bringing. So if I say something wrong, if you can't hear me properly, if the computer buffers, it's because I'm a real human, just like you. And I would love for you to tell me if there's any ways that I can improve or things that didn't connect with you so that I can get better. Now, put your answers in the chat. Why might I introduce myself like this? Both the impressive parts of me, but also some of the more kind of vulnerable, raw skeletons that I might have in the closet. Anybody got any ideas about why I might introduce myself like that? Now, I've got some good news for you. These workshops get smashing feedback, as I mentioned before, people saying that this was the best webinar I ever attended, the best hour, it flew by. But I need your help to do that, because this is a two-way conversation. I'm here just as your guide, right? And together I want to create a dialogue, create a real energy, a real collective experience in the group that could give us goosebumps and really change us for the better. So if you're with me, if you're ready to play full out, if you're going to be going all in on the chat and getting as much as possible from this session, if you're going to really make the juice the squeeze, can I get a yes, a yeehaw, a cannon emoji? Let me know that you are with me. Are you with me? I've got some rockets. Yes, I'm going to fire a rocket up your bum. People have also called me a good slap in the face. I'm not sure if that was a compliment. Now, for this talk specifically, I've had people come to me, read the comment on the left. The hour finished about 15 minutes ago, and I literally can't stop sobbing. Because this stuff that we're going to be talking about today is pretty knotty, it's pretty gritty. And you could have a really powerful experience today. And if you do, and if at any point you need to take a step away, please know that you can. Now, you were kind enough to come back to me about why it was important to show both the good and the bad parts of my life. And Laurie said this type of intro shows humility and relatability, and it shows that I am human. So yeah, I am wanting to present myself as a human because I want you to feel like you can be a real human here today, to give you permission and that psychological safety. Now, if you like my vibes and you think I might be somebody that you'd like to connect more with, you can take a little screenshot of my screen right now, take a picture, and go ahead and connect with me on the social media platform that best suits you. Now, what else do you need to know about the session? You might want to take some notes. You're going to notice if you've got questions and things, please put your hands up. Pamela is doing an amazing job being my wonderful assistant in the chat, and she'll collect those. If you want to get the most out of today, please contribute fully. Remember that you contributing fully is going to allow somebody else to contribute fully because they feel they've been given permission. And this might be scary, but remember, that awareness is the first step towards positive change. Now, we know we're not particularly good at multitasking, so if you can, turn that phone over so you don't see those Slack messages coming through, and allow yourself to have a magical experience by giving yourself fully to this session. I invite you to do that now. Now, we've talked about what we're going to do it. What we're going to do. This is where I sing. This is how we do it. Right. So what we're going to be covering today, we're going to be defining imposter syndrome. We're going to exploring what it is. We're going to be looking at your archetype, your stereotype for how your imposter manifests. And then we're going to do some really important reframing work. So you guys nailed it in the chat. Defining imposter syndrome looks something like an experience of inadequacy that persists despite evident success. Now, I'm going to present some symptoms. Of course, this isn't really a syndrome. It's not a medical thing. In fact, it was called a phenomenon when Clance and Eames came up with it 70 years ago. And they identified these kind of symptoms. Now, I'd love you to let me know in the chat, let your teammates know in the chat, which of these are things that you experience when it comes to your imposter syndrome. Do you experience self-doubt? Are you one of those people that's constantly second-guessing yourself, that's often asking, have I got it? Am I doing the right thing? That is kind of worried about perhaps speaking up in a meeting because they're worried that they're not going to say the right thing? Are you someone that experiences intellectual fraud, one of the most common manifestations of imposter syndrome? This is the idea that you're going to get found out, that you're a fraud, that everyone's going to realize that you don't deserve to be here at some point, right? That you got this job by chance. Now, this is one people don't always associate with imposter syndrome. Are you one of those people that has difficulty recognizing praise or proof of competence? You know, when somebody says to you, oh yeah, your hair looks really nice today, and you go, oh no, oh my God, it's so greasy. Or when someone says, oh my God, you did the most amazing piece of work, you go, oh no, oh, it was all Michael. Are you one of the people that does that? Let us know in the chat which of these symptoms you experience. Are you like me who berates your performance, i.e. gives yourself a super hard time? Oh, why didn't my LinkedIn post get more than 7 likes? Oh gosh, I'm so useless. Why couldn't I have been better? Do you constantly give yourself a hard time for not being good enough? Or do you live in fear? Fear of being found out, fear of letting other people down, fear of embarrassing yourself? Let's have a look in here. What symptoms have we got people experiencing? All of them, full house, all 4. Okay, good. Right. So a few of you can identify with these feelings of imposter syndrome. Pam, would you be so kind as to launch the poll now so that we can get a better sense in this room of how often you're experiencing these types of symptoms and this phenomenon that we like to know as imposter syndrome? Questions on the screen for you now. How often do you experience imposter syndrome? Never, rarely, sometimes, regularly, or daily? Amazing. You guys are fired up. We've got 50% of you, 60% of you coming back, 76, which means you're all with me. I love you to death. Right. We've got 15% of you yet to come back. I'm going to close the poll in 3, 2, 1. What do you think was the most common answer? Drum roll, please. If you had regularly as being the most common answer, you were absolutely right. Can we just take a millisecond to see that 0 people, 0, no one in this room said that they never experienced imposter syndrome? Now, you might be a slightly self-selecting crowd. You've come to a session on imposter syndrome. So it might be a bit skewed to the mathematical geniuses of you in the room. However, I just want us to focus on the fact that there are 56% of you who are experiencing this regularly, 15% experiencing this daily, and only 1 person in this room has put down rarely. Why do you think I share a poll like this at the beginning of today's Power Hour? Put your answers in the chat for me. Why do you think I would be trying to bring awareness to how many people experience imposter syndrome? Because it's human, Natalie, exactly. Because everyone has it. Sky put it beautifully, because we are not alone to normalize it. Smashing it, guys. Now let's explore a weird question. How could your imposter be helping you? Put your answers in the chat for me. If you're brave enough to come on mute, we welcome and invite you. Why might your imposter syndrome be doing you a favor? What could you have to thank it for? Hey, buddy, cheers for that. motivating, trying harder, seeing improvements, challenging yourself, pushing boundaries, not to be arrogant, keeps me working hard, helps you to be better, encourages your growth, challenges you to do better, validates you care. Gary, no one ever gets that answer. Yes, fist pump. Double checking. Oh, you guys are a smart bunch, aren't you? Exactly. Now, nobody quite got this answer. Maybe you did. Let me know if I've missed it in the chat. Pam, you can confirm. I sometimes miss this. First of all, I just want to let you know that imposter syndrome, actually, no, we did get it. Who said second guessing themselves, double checking? You got the answer. We're programmed to have imposter syndrome. It's in our DNA. We have evolutionarily evolved in order to have imposter syndrome to stop us from potentially doing something stupid, to stop the word vomit that would just kind of come out of our mouths if we weren't there checking whether or not what we actually want to say makes sense. We are programmed to do this to keep us alive. We are programmed to second guess, to question, to wonder, because otherwise we might just have allowed ourselves to be eaten by the scary cave bear, right? Secondly, as you rightly said, it pushes you, it motivates you to bring your A game. When you see somebody running just a little bit faster than you on the treadmill, you might go just a little notch or two up, going faster than perhaps you would have otherwise. It challenges you, it challenges us to be at our best. And lastly, exactly as he said, it shows you care. My mentor says, if you don't experience imposter syndrome, you're either a narcissist, a sociopath, or a psychopath. Because when we have imposter syndrome, it's because we so desperately want to do a good job, because we want to do right by people, because we care about the impact that we're having and the people that we're serving. So can we all just give ourselves a little heart to say, thank you, imposter syndrome, for protecting me. Thank you for pushing me. Thank you for showing that I care. Thank you for giving me the humility to realize that I'm not the finished article and I'm not perfect. Now let's call a spade, because I don't know about you, but imposter syndrome has well and truly darkened my doorway many a time. Put your answers in the chat for me now. How does it hinder you? How does it hold you back? How does it stop you? Why do you hate it? Analysis paralysis. Paralysis stops you from seeing your value, makes me feel stuck. Absolutely. Remember, you can like or use an emoji of someone's comment if you like it, but you don't quite feel like you want to contribute with a comment yourself. Not trying, confidence, I'm not good enough, stops me connecting for others, stops me taking on new opportunities, anxiety, rambling, increased heart rate. Yeah. So, first of all, as we all know, our imposter syndrome restrains us. When we don't back ourselves, we stop ourselves from doing the things that we're capable of. I've just spent the entire morning practicing for a 3-minute TEDx submission talk. Do I have imposter syndrome? Have I been sitting there thinking, have I done the right thing? Does anyone listen to me? Why does anybody care? Sure. But I pushed past it. And you can too. When we start to understand this thing, you can stop it from blocking you from what you're capable of. And we can start to recorrect and change this toxic inner narrative that I don't know about you, but I am exhausted by. Feels like warring factions going on in my head half of the time with my imposter syndrome. No, you can't do that. No, don't say that. You can't apply for that. No one will like you. Huh? Anybody else? Right? And as you said, it sees us as less than we're capable, less than we are. You've heard this before, but I'll say it again because you need to hear it. Imagine if you could see yourself like those who love you. Imagine if you could talk to yourself with the same grace and compassion that you talk to your best friend. Wouldn't that be a nicer way to be? Now, what do you think causes imposter syndrome? Where is this pesky little character come from? Put your answers in the chat for me. Comparison, says Sam. The amygdala, says Julie. Absolutely. It's a defense mechanism. Beautiful. Keep those answers coming. What causes imposter syndrome? Where's it come from? Evolutionary, neurodivergence. Love that answer, Vivian. Thank you for bringing that. Past experience, limited belief from parents, shifting careers. Beautiful. Childhood trauma. I love working with you guys. You're great. So yes, there is a physical aspect when it comes to imposter syndrome. Now, there's lots of research being done, but at the present time, as far as I understand it, About 50% of your personality is made up by your genes. And tell me, can you change your genes? Has anyone figured out that? Has anyone managed to figure out how to change your genes? No, I didn't think so. And that means that you are given some proclivities, some skews, some preferences to 5 personality kind of aspects. Are you more introverted or extroverted? Are you more neurotic? Hello. Or chill? Conscientious? Open to experience or a bit more guarded? Super agreeable or a bit like, I don't me, thanks. Now, depending on where you are, with all of these different possibilities based on when that egg met that sperm and Gesundheit, right? You will have different perspectives which impact your imposter syndrome. If, like me, you've got a high neuroticism preference, and if, like me, perhaps you've got a history of mental health in your family, your mother had bipolar, so did your grandmother, might it be true that you have perhaps more of a likelihood or quite an intense experience of imposter syndrome? Might it be that if you are less open to new experiences, that when something comes along that's new, it might be exciting, but it might be extra specially scary to you? So just think about you, think about where you might fall on the spectrum of these big 5 personality traits, and how that might be influencing your imposter syndrome experience. I love it. We've already got tips coming into the chat. Keep them coming. I am not the authority on imposter syndrome, people. So let's think about what physical inherent dispositions might be contributing to our experience of imposter syndrome. Now, if 50% of us are genes, the other 50% are, as you said, our experiences, the way that we're socialized, and we are conditioned from the minute that we're conceived. And as you mentioned in the chat, how might your childhood experiences, how might your parents, how might being bullied at school have impacted your experience of imposter syndrome? If you grew up in a house where if you didn't get an A+ star %1,000,000%, it wasn't good enough, isn't it likely that that might be carrying through with you into the perfectionism that you have with your work? If you grew up in a family where there was lots of competition between siblings, perhaps you find yourself and your imposter syndrome coming out in comparison, or positively in wanting to be the best version of yourself. So just think now about what beliefs might be influencing your perceptions of imposter syndrome. Then, of course, there's this little noggin here called the brain. And there are psychological reasons we experience imposter syndrome. In fact, if I was to ask you how confidence and competence, i.e., how good we are at something, were correlated, what might you say? I'm pretty sure most people would draw a positive correlation. But our lovely little tricksy brain doesn't necessarily work in the logical way. In fact, what we tend to see happen is when we are less competent, i.e., less good at something, we have overinflated confidence because we don't realize necessarily how hard something is, and maybe the task isn't that difficult at the beginning. But as the task becomes more difficult, as our competence level increases to meet the additional demands, our confidence actually dips because we start to realize all the things that we don't know, the long path we have to master. And our confidence never fully gets back to those heady heights of the beginning. And that, as you said, is a good thing in many ways because it keeps us humble, it keeps us growing, it keeps us hungry. But it can also give us a full sense of perspective about how good we are at something. We underappreciate how good we are, and we overinflate how good others are. Lastly, let's look at how society contributes to our experiences of imposter syndrome. This is particularly true for traditionally underrepresented groups who may perhaps have an absence of role models and in the types of careers that they're aspiring to go into. Perhaps they feel like they don't belong because they don't see people who look like them, think like them, act like them in the same rooms. And of course, we've got these warped perceptions, don't we, of what success looks like. It's the BMW on the driveway and what job title you have on LinkedIn. And therefore, if we don't meet those expectations, or if we want something different, it can make us feel like a failure. Put your answers in the chat now. Which of the 4 attributing factors, causes of imposter syndrome, has most got you thinking right now? I saying psychological, so the Dunning-Kruger effect. Social says Medi, lovely. Psychological, societal, okay, fabulous. So a real mix there, which I ask you to reflect on. How interesting is it that all of us are struck by different things and affected by different things because we are all uniquely experiencing this thing for ourselves? Pop your answers in the chat for me, just a bit of recall to help to stick this learning in your brains. What struck you most so far from today's talk? What's been an aha moment for you? What's hit a chord? What did you think about that you might not have otherwise? The positive parts of imposter syndrome, says Alan. Perfect. Confidence and competence. I'm not alone in this. Imposter syndrome doesn't discriminate. Lovely. Now, let's start looking about what we can do about this thing, hey? Don't know about you, but I'd quite like to, sort this out. So we're going to investigate now different stereotypes, different archetypes, different manifestations of your imposter syndrome. These are kind of common characteristics that you may find yourself associating with. And the reason that this is so valuable is because when we can start to recognize some of these in ourselves, we can start to see how our imposter syndrome is coming to life, how we've learned to cope with it, and then we can start to do something about it. So as I go through, think here about which one or two of these sounds most like you. So, do I have any perfectionists in the room? Do I have anybody here who has trouble letting go of even the smallest mistakes? Who gives themselves such a hard time for stumbling over a word in a presentation or the typo that they had in an email? Do I have anybody who reads an email 50,000 times before they press send? Do I have anybody who over prepares for meetings? Do I have anybody here who, unless they've got every I perfectly dotted and T crossed, they're terrified they're going to get found out? Over prepare. Sounds like me. Okay. This is called the perfectionist stereotype. And this is, spoiler alert, a coping mechanism. Because what you're basically doing here is, if I can just be absolutely perfect, if nobody can say anything to me, if I don't get anything wrong, then no one's going to realize that I'm actually freaking out, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not going to get found out. This is a coping mechanism for your imposter syndrome. Now, Anna Maria was kind enough to own up to this workaholic imposter archetype being her number one. Do I have any workaholics in the room? Do I have anybody here who feels super loads of pressure to work harder or longer, who says, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that, no problem, when their to-do list is already encroaching on 4 pages of A4? Do I have anybody here who has trouble saying no or setting boundaries or saying, oh, sure, I can do that piece of work, but I won't be able to do that? Few of you identifying with this. This is another coping mechanism, by the way. Right? This is the idea that if I can just get everything done, if I can just scrub everything off the to-do list, nobody's going to realize that I'm actually a failure. I don't know what I'm doing here and I won't get found out. Next up, we have my number one archetype, the natural genius. Do I have anybody here who struggles too much when things are difficult? They take it as a sign that they're not meant to be doing that they're not good enough. It's like ammo for their imposter who says, I told you so, you're not that good at what you thought you were anyway. Do I have anybody who feels embarrassed about the path to mastery or finding things tricky? Who worries a hell of a lot about what other people might think? If you experience this imposter syndrome archetype, you are holding yourself to an unfair standard. And every time you fail, which inevitably you will, it's like fuel to the fire for your imposter syndrome. And lastly, do I have anybody here who identifies with the expert? Do I have anybody here who feels like they have to know it all? For whom, when they're giving a presentation and you're in the hot seat being fired questions at, this is like your biggest idea of a nightmare if you don't have a fully polished, 100% researched answer. Do I have anybody here who is a criteria chaser? Oh, I'll just get another diploma. Yeah, I'll just check with somebody else that I'm doing the right thing. Maybe you struggle to ask for help. Do I have anybody here who wouldn't apply for a new job unless they met 125,000% of the job description? Perhaps you're an expert. So fabulous. You've already been coming through loud and clear in the chat about the types of archetype you identify with. And now I'm just going to launch another poll. Sorry, Pam, I know that you were going to do this for me, but I've gotten carried away. I'm going to launch the poll for you now. Which of these stereotypes do you most associate with? The perfectionist, the natural genius, the workaholic, or the expert? Lovely. Can see such strong engagement in the poll. Thank you so much for all being here with me, present, fully contributing. You guys are absolute rock stars. So I'm going to give you another 3, 2, 1 to come back on the poll. 80% of you there in the poll filling out. And for those of you who weren't able to quite make the poll, you're still very welcome. Thanks for keeping with us. So we've got quite an even spread, I would say, in this room. The majority of you are perfectionists. We've got quite a few of you like me, natural geniuses, a couple of workaholics, and then a few more experts. Now, what I hope I'm going to empower you to do by identifying these archetypes is next time you see yourself going into perfectionism mode, working way too hard, having unrealistic expectations of something, or giving yourself a hard time because you don't have every single answer rolling off the tip of your tongue, you can go, oh, hey, imposter, Wagwan, how are you doing? Yeah, cool. I see you, and I'm going to do something differently. I'm going to go back to my boss and rather than being a workaholic, say, sure, I can do that piece of work for you. Which one would you like me to take off my list? When we can start to recognize these unhealthy behaviors, that's when we can start to do something about it. Now, I am here to introduce you to a new name to call your imposter. I heard it once, never forgot it, and it seems to resonate with audiences all around the world. Excuse my French. I'd like to introduce you to the shitty committee. And this is that little inner monologue going on inside your head. And today we're going to do some really important reframing work. So what I want you to do is I want you to get your piece of paper. If you haven't got one and you need to use your phone or whatever you need to do to make this work, you do you. Put it in the chat if you want. I want you to either draw, because we can activate the right side of our brain and turn on all of those creative juices and help the learning to assimilate in lots of interesting ways, or you can just write a list. I'm going to give you a minute now to write down where and when your shitty committee rears its ugly head. So here's some examples. Seeing other people achieving goals on LinkedIn, when something doesn't go to plan with a project, when you're put in front of senior stakeholders to present, when you get a difficult piece of feedback. Maybe your kids and family trigger you as much as mine do me. Or perhaps doing something difficult, doing something for the first time is something that really kicks off your imposter syndrome. Let's see how many you can get in 30 seconds. Go. We're writing down the situations where your imposter comes to life. Feel free to put any answers in the chat. Sam saying, when trying something new. Vivian saying, when I see other people my age or younger achieving more goals in life than me. Can anybody else identify with that feeling? Hang on, can I get 100% emoji there? Where's the 100% emoji? Hello. Lovely. So now you've written down some of your situations. If you haven't already, chuck them in the chat for us. Ashley saying public speaking. Anybody else? Public speaking. I have to say that's one of the ones where it doesn't come to life for me because I'm one of those freaky weirdos that actually enjoy standing up in front of a group of strangers and talking about their like biggest, darkest secrets. But you know, that's just me. Writing a LinkedIn post when there's a power of balance, pushing myself out of my comfort zone. You're nailing this, gang. And remember, by putting this situation into the chat, you're just saying to somebody else who might also experience that it's okay for them to experience it too. Applying for jobs. Yes. Oh God, who else? Applying for jobs, not getting likes or acknowledgements for what I do. Preach. Seeing how a co-worker seeing a co-worker announcing they are speaking on a panel after my application got rejected. Oh. So literally I had this yesterday. Like I follow lots of these types of people on LinkedIn, right? And I'm applying for this TED talk, and then I saw somebody else that's speaking at Southwest, and and even though I'm trained in this shit, even though I've been doing it for a living for 5 years, even though I've been in therapy and spent about £10,000 on therapy, it still got me. Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing so openly. Next up, I'm going to ask you to tune in to what the shitty committee says. Looking at the different things that you've written down as a situation where it comes to life, what do you say? When I see others achieving goals, I say, you're not as good as others. You're not as far forward as you wanted to be. Why would anybody listen to you? And when I get something wrong, when I've got a post that doesn't get enough likes, I'm like, oh God, what will people think? I should be embarrassed. Nobody liked it. And when I lose my patience with my kids because they're driving me absolutely crazy, instead of going, it's all okay, you're sleep deprived, it's a bit much. I'm like, you're crap, mum. Why can't you be better? They deserve better. You're going to damage them. And when I'm doing something difficult for the first time, you're useless. You're rubbish. Why can't you get this quicker? So and so did better than you. So again, I'm going to give you a bit of time to reflect now. And as and when you're ready, I would love for you to share in the chat. What do you say when your imposter syndrome comes to life? What does the shitty committee start echoing, laughing horribly in your ear, saying? Let's have a look. What do you know about this? When asking questions, am I pretending to know more than I do? Exactly. You don't belong here. You're lame. You should just give up. You're not good enough. Who are you to deserve this? Are you ready for this? You don't represent X. You don't have enough experience. People think you're doing a terrible job. What was the point? Well, of course, you completely botched it. You're pathetic. Now, can you believe that the people in this room today are saying those horrific things to themselves? Because often we think that everybody else is all just fine. Oh, they don't worry about this. But imagine if there were speech bubbles coming out of each other's heads and we were able to actually see the toxic, polluting horribleness that people are saying to themselves. Because then we would realize that we're not just some freaky weirdo, we're in the majority. Now, lastly, on this reframing, rebranding exercise, I'm going to get you to practice what we need to be doing every single minute of every single day of every single moment of our lives. Talking back. So now I want you to spend some time thinking about what could you say back? Instead of me thinking I'm not as good as others when seeing people achieve their goals, how about saying, you're doing amazingly, you're trying your best, you've got so much to be proud of. So many people are inspired by you. Bit nicer, eh? Instead of you should be embarrassed because something went wrong, you've got so much to be proud of. Look at what you've achieved. And I'm not a crap mum. I'm an amazing mum who sometimes loses her temper. So sue me. And I'm not useless for finding things difficult or failing at something. In fact, if you're not trying hard enough, you're probably not failing. Failure is part of the process. So hit me now back with what can you say back to your imposter syndrome? There's always room for improvement. You don't need to be perfect from the start. You are an impossible, thankless situation. You're in an impossible, thankless situation. Yeah, objectify it, depersonalize it. Exactly. Here, I invite my imposter to join me. Lovely. I'll show you, or I'll try and grow you. Medi, everyone is different and you cannot compare yourself to others. These are like tools in your toolbox. Use it mindfully. I deserve this. Give yourself grace. Yeah. This is the bit where you need to speak to yourself like you were speaking to your best friend. And I wish I had a silver bullet for how you can fix yourself of these things, but I haven't found it yet. I'll tell you what, though, 4 years of therapy, shit tons of personal development, and trying to practice every day to talk back to the imposter has worked miracles. Because the great news is, again, you L&D folks will know this better than anyone. Our brain has plasticity. That means that it can change. And the more that we practice something, the more that we can charge the right neurotransmitters to power on the path that we would like them to go on. Your brain is kind of like, and again, I'm not a neuroscientist here, so this is what I understand of it. But basically, imagine that your brain Your pathways are kind of like cars, right? And when you have recurrent thinking patterns, and by the way, 80% of your thoughts are negative, and that's to keep you alive, yeah. When you have repeated patterns, those thought cars move as if they're on the motorway, right? Vroom, 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 and it just really easily goes down the same track. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. They're better than me. And the work we have to do is to unpick this tarmac runway ahead of us, this motorway, and we need to carve a different path. We need a new signpost that says, this way, please, which is all about trying to reroute for positivity. And as we practice this path more, that then becomes from a little trodden path to an A road to a B road to the motorway. And the previous motorway gets bricked up. We can change our brains for the better. We just have to practice what we need practicing. This is the work, talking back to ourselves every minute of every single day. Now, I'm about to share a few tips and tricks that are some of my favorite when it comes to imposter syndrome. I'm going to check where we are on time. Lovely. But like I said, I don't have a monopoly on imposter syndrome. There's no personal development police. And in fact, I bet that you have learned a huge amount from the people who've shared in the chat so far. So please dig deep, share the best tips and tricks that you have for taming your imposter syndrome, because we'd all love to hear it. And that nugget, that little thing that you share, might be the thing that just changes somebody's life in today's talk. So the first thing I hope today has helped you to do is to recognize your imposter. Oh, hey, perfectionist, I see you. You can't get away from me. In order for us to be able to do something about this imposter, we have to see when it's coming out the woodwork. So the first tip I have is pretty simple. Recognize it, see it. And as somebody said in the chat, oh no, I'm going to move on to that. Who can see the FedEx arrow here? Anyone know where the arrow is? Can you see the arrow in the FedEx logo? Yes. Some of you are like, no, it's here. Can you see the arrow? Now you've seen that arrow, I'm sorry, you're never going to be able to unsee it. And every time a FedEx van comes past, you're going to go, oh yeah, remember that webinar where that crazy unicorn lady said something about this? Yeah. Once we see the imposter, we can start to really do something about it. Oh, how do I get rid of my annotations? Hang on. I don't use annotations that much. Here we go. Clear all drawings. There we go. The next thing, and I saw somebody have a really brilliant suggestion around this, is to visualize it. So literally on that kind of inspiration station board that I have over there, I have this drawing. It was a drawing after I was inspired by a TED talk that talked about drawing your imposter syndrome. My imposter syndrome is called Alicia. She's the head cheerleader at Bitchy Girl High School. And when I identified that this was actually me as a 14-year-old girl who was desperate to be liked, trying so hard to make friends, and who eventually everybody turned on and had to eat lunch like in the toilets, I realized that rather than hating my imposter, I needed to feel sorry for her. Alicia was just vulnerable and insecure and traumatized and scared. And in so doing, I was able to put my arms more around her and say, it's okay. So have a go at drawing your imposter syndrome. Lovely. Gary shared what I'm sure is a fantastic article about exploring theirs. What else can we do? Oh, hang on. Oh, I've got to get rid of this. Right. The next thing is to work in your area of genius. There are way too many of us, probably not, hopefully not in this room since you're in L&D, but there are too many people in the world. I know this because of my TED talk. 9 out of 10 people are disengaged from work. And I think the chances are that those people who are disengaged are not leaning into their strengths, i.e. the things that energize and motivate them, not just what you're good at. I want you to refocus around these things, because when we're operating in our area of genius, when our badass factor is able to be 10x, we will feel less imposter syndrome. So if you feel a lot of imposter syndrome in your job, maybe it is important for you to ask, am I on the right path, or what could I do to change it? And for anybody that focuses too much on the doom to-do list, Why not try making a note of your to-do list? What things are you proud of? What things are you grateful for? What achievements have you made? For those of you on the entrepreneurial track thinking, oh God, will I ever be ready to start my own thing? Start making a list of the achievements that you made. Oh, look, I charged £100 for that workshop. Oh, hey, I'm practicing doing some coaching. Do you know what I mean? Like literally, just start making a list of the reasons why you can do this. And I love to create a smile folder, putting away positive feedback so that if I'm having a tough day, I can just go in there and get a bit of a positivity shower. And lastly, the importance of reframing. Now, there's this concept called spotlight syndrome, which, by the way, we all have, because we're in our own heads, right? And we think, because we're listening to the internal monologue of bullshit that's going around in our minds for most of the time, that everybody else must be able to know what's going on and all of the challenges and tribulations that we're experiencing. Oh my God, everyone can see that massive spot on my forehead or the fact that I got demoted. But because everybody else has got imposter syndrome and everybody else has spotlight syndrome, everyone's too obsessed with their own screw ups and big spots and typos in slides to care too long or hard for yours. And so there we are getting our knickers totally in a twist about something, when in reality, whatever is today's headlines will be tomorrow's fish and chip paper. And the sooner we can get out of our own way and stop thinking that people are sitting there eating popcorn, laughing at every failure, the better. And one other technique I like to share is called take five. So the next time something goes wrong, the next time your imposter syndrome comes firing in, I want you to ask yourself, will this thing still matter in 5 minutes? Yeah, probably. 5 hours. Okay, the sting's eased off, but it's still kind of ruminating and keeps coming back into my mind. 5 days. Bit sore, but it's kind of gone away. 5 years. What even was that thing? Right? So just zoom out and give it some perspective. Now let's have a look at the amazing ideas that I have no doubt you've been sharing. One thing I learned while quilting is that I only looked at the mistakes on my quilt while everyone else had no idea about it. I read somewhere if you cannot see it from 10 feet away in 10 seconds, or in 10 seconds, the mistake doesn't count. Love it. Trello is nice for flexible to-do or to-do lists. Reminding myself about what I've accomplished and the challenges that I overcame. Lovely. I acknowledge the good intentions behind it. Thanks, imposter. I know you want to protect me, and I appreciate this. Now I'm safe so that you can let me continue my work so that many people can benefit. Exactly. When you stop standing in your spotlight and sharing your genius with people, you're being selfish because you're stopping somebody from learning from you, from growing from you, from feeling less alone. Or because what? You felt a bit embarrassed. We need to get over our cringe factor and do it in service of the people that we want to help. Now, I hope that you have enjoyed today's session. I'm going to be available to answer some questions. If you would like to put your questions in the chat, please do feel free. In the meantime, I am going to pop you in a breakout room in a second, and I want you to answer 2 questions before you go in. The first one is, what have been your key takeaways from today? What are you going to go away and tell your boss, your boyfriend, your best friend? Anything really resonate for you? What sparks did this send? Any light bulbs? And then I want you to write down, what actions might you take as a result of what you've learned today? So I'm going to pop those into the chat now. If anyone's got questions, do highlight that you've got questions. In a second, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. Meanwhile, I'm just going to put the questions that I'm asking you in the chat. It's key takeaways and actions from today to apply learning. I'm going to give you a minute or so to reflect. Then I'm going to pop you into breakout rooms so that you can meet and greet some of the other amazing shakers, imposter syndrome smashers that we have in the room with us today. And then I'm going to welcome you back and I will answer those questions. So just another 30 seconds to reflect. Catch that. Oh, shut up, Siri. I'm going to set up those breakout rooms now. Lovely. So if you need those questions again, remember that I've just popped them into the chat so you can have a look there. And in the meantime, I am going to pop you all into your breakout rooms. If you have any issues, raise your hand and Pamela and I will come rushing in. And we'll see you after the 6-minute breakout room where I can answer your questions. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we were just saying that we're still processing, but we're, I guess, both in a period of transition, which is ripe ground for imposter syndrome. So we were just talking a bit about our plans and how maybe we'll lean into our strengths a bit more, watch the kind of self-talk, and maybe play with some visualizing that imposter.
Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing, Natalie. I really appreciate that. Any other folks, feel free to come off mute, pop your answers in the chat for me. What were the key takeaways for you? And what actions do you want to take to apply your learning? In the meantime, while you pop any of those into the chat, Shutri, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, asked a brilliant question. How can we figure out the difference between being really underprepared and having imposter syndrome, as they can sometimes feel like the same thing? It's a great question. I think for me, sometimes I will get anxious and nervous and worried. And it's a really good trigger for, oh crap, maybe I need to do a bit more work, a few more practices. Normally, if I ask myself really honestly, I can tell the difference between what's like fear and unhelpful and like not serving me. And then actually, maybe there's a reason why I'm not feeling quite as confident as I should. And therefore, that's the kind of like impetus to do more work. So I'd say it's about that recognition piece and being really honest with ourselves about what we think is driving it. Great. If anybody would like to ask any more questions, I am going to be here for the next 3 minutes. Or if anybody else would like to come off mute and share or put your answers into the chat, please let us know what resonated for you in the session. And if you found my brand of badassery a bit inspiring today and you think, oh, I might like to keep in touch with Alice, then I've put my LinkedIn link in there. So please connect, follow, subscribe, whatever you do when you do these things. So yeah, any reflections or questions? I'd love to spend the last 3 minutes doing that. Lovely. Well, it seems like you've had a good time. And Sky said that she appreciates how practical the content's been. So thank you so much. Well, I really hope that you had an interesting session. Again, I'm probably going to close the call in the not too distant future. So if you do have anything that you want to share in the chat or come off mute, you are very welcome. So I'll just pause now in case anybody does. Fabulous. Well, maybe the imposter's getting a bit in the way of coming off mute and speaking, which is fine. Anyone ready with that little nudge to push past their imposter? Tried. I tried. Well, Sky, did you just come off mute? I feel like I saw you maybe coming off mute.
No, it's me. Maybe just taking an opportunity to ask people, if you're not part of the L&D Shakers community, please join us in LinkedIn, which later will provide you the access to the Slack channel. In the Slack channel, we have a channel specifically for the Career Leap initiative. So yes, everyone is welcome. And thank you, Alice, for your energy, for your time, your tips. They are so useful, so inspiring. And thank you, everyone, for being here. And
thank
hope
you,
to see you in the
everybody.
next sessions.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your leap.
Thank you.
Cheerio.
Thanks, Alice.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much. Bye.